What is up, everybody? This is JP representing jpfitnesspro.com. Today, I'm coming at you with a really good episode of the Exercise Science Podcast that's a little similar to one of the first episodes that I did of the Exercise Science Podcast. Just a little bit. I'm talking about something different, but some of the points are they're just gonna kind of cross paths a little bit just due to the topics at hand. And the episode that I'm talking about was one of the first ones that I did. It was 5 things that I loved and hated about the fitness industry, and that was kind of aimed more towards personal trainers, as with this video, this episode too. This episode's aimed more for people who want to enter the fitness industry in some way. And if you couldn't tell by the title of the video, this is basically I'm going to go over some topics and things to really tell if personal training is for you. Because a lot of people, I've seen posts and stories and talked to people where they thought they wanted to get into personal training, and then they get into it and it's not exactly what they made out to be. And then they got out of it because it just wasn't, again, all what it's chalked up to be. And me, I love being a personal trainer, and I love fitness and everything about exercise, strength training, and like muscular hypertrophy. To me, it's addictive, but again, there are some things that, again, not every career is not going to have. You're not going to love everything about every career. Everyone who has a job, there's probably some aspect of it that they do not like. I've never met anyone who says they love every single part of their job. Like, there's not one even minute thing that they don't like. They're lying to you. It could be the smallest thing, but there's always something. And I'm not saying that makes someone not want to do their job, but just to go over it, just so maybe you don't know if you want to be a personal trainer. Maybe if you listen to this episode, you're like, well, I don't want to be personal training anymore. I'd rather be, a strength coach or a strength and conditioning coach for a football team or a basketball team. That might be something different, because again, this is specifically towards personal training. And some of these relate to like strength and conditioning for teams, but most of these are for like one-on-one training of some sort, whether that be like, you're working one-on-one with the athlete, or you're working with just, general population, whatever it may be. So again, this is for personal trainers, and then let's just get right on into it. The first thing that you kind of at the core of being a personal trainer is that you need to kind of have. And it's what I have, and this is the main thing that got me into it. It's the main thing. This is how I know it's a perfect fit, and this is why I know, like, I didn't fall off very quickly. Is you have to enjoy helping people. Some part of you wants to kind of see joy, or you get joy from seeing other people get joy from making progress. So you have to enjoy helping people. You want to help them get stronger. You want to help them lose weight. You want to help them, hit a personal record or get a faster mile time or whatever it may be. But some part of you have to enjoy helping people. And that's originally how I got into personal training. It probably wasn't the smartest thing at the time, but I was doing some core workouts that I had seen from, videos online and just from, browsing the web before I even did personal training. Basically what everyone does. And I was just doing them, and obviously, you do them hard, and I felt them. My abs burn, and I liked doing them. And then a friend asked me, what core workout was that? And this was when I was in the Marine Corps, so, we did a lot of workouts. But he asked me what workout I was doing, and I showed him. And then, he just said if I could help him out and show him how to do it, and I did. And then, that was it. It wasn't that big of a deal, but a couple weeks later, he came back and he said that he could start to see his abs a little bit. And he wasn't a big guy, obviously. You're not going to see your abs in a couple weeks, but he was already pretty lean. But he said that he could start to see his abs a little bit. And whether or not that was the truth, I didn't go up to him and ask him how they were, how the workout was going. But he just came to me and said that he really liked that. And then it made him motivated. And I seen the kind of look on his face. He was just happy. And at that point, I kind of just realized that was fun. I feel like I felt a surge of kind of like joy for him, I liked how he seemed happy. That I just liked the fact that he was so happy with the progress that he had made. It's kind of like a satisfaction you can't get anywhere else. It's just cool seeing someone else reach a goal. If it's like, even if you can't get it, at least someone else is getting it. So that's so that was one of the main things you kind of have to have, is that you want to enjoy helping people to some extent. So if you don't like helping people, then I would first and foremost say that this is probably not a job for you. And if you enjoy helping people, boom, that's already the first step. But it's not just that, because you can help people in thousands of ways. You can help people, by feeding the homeless. So it's just different ways, The next, I guess, point that I like to make is, and remember, just to go over this real quick too, these things aren't like, the one that I just said, if you enjoy helping people, I don't want to say that's a must, but that kind of is a must. But some of these they're not all in the same, they don't all have the same weight. So the next one that I'm going to say, you can kind of work around this one, and there's some of these you can work around, so they don't all have the same weight and the same impact. So again, like the first one that I just said, you kind of have to enjoy helping people to some extent, or this career is just not cut out for you, period. If you hate helping people, that's all you're doing with personal training, is you're helping people. So, it's not like you're a model or something, or somewhere where and I'm not trying to shit on that industry, but being a model, everyone's looking at you. You're doing that for yourself. You're feeling a certain type of way. It's not really, I guess in certain circumstances, like if you're a model, you might be doing that to help other people empower themselves, but ultimately it's not the same thing. And again, I'm not saying that's worse or better. I'm just saying that you have to help people. That's just a career that you're doing that. But certain things, like the next one I'm going to touch on, again, you can get around it, and it's not certain. They have different weights to them, like in how much you have to enjoy them or not. You don't have to have all of these aspects, or have all of these qualities to be a personal trainer. But the next one is, you kind of, it would help if you like reading studies or reviews of studies. And by reviews of studies, like for example, there's a research review that I read right now. There's one that I kind of follow a little bit, but there's one that I fully read, it's called MASS, Monthly Applications in Strength Sport. I'm not sponsored by them, or I'm not affiliated with them in any way, so I'm not mentioning them for you guys to get their product. But it is an amazing research review. So what they do is there's three guys, Greg Knuckles, Eric Helms, and Mike Zordos. They dig through all the studies and the scientific literature that's been recent, that goes over, that pertains to strength, gaining muscle, or like weight management, stuff like that. Basically, bodybuilding or strength training. If it applies to those two things, it's going to be in there. And they go over the studies themselves, and they go over what's good about the studies, what's bad about the studies, and how it can help you, how it pertains to you, can you apply it. So you don't necessarily have to dig through all these studies yourself. That's kind of like their job. They like doing that, and you purchase it, and then boom, it cuts out dozens and dozens of hours for yourself for, $20-$30 a month. That's something that, like, you kind of have to, it would help if you like reading studies to some extent, because if you say, well, I hate reading studies, I don't like going near them, they confuse me, or maybe they don't confuse you, maybe you just don't like reading them because they're boring, then yeah, maybe you could like study reviews. Again, you're not tackling the study yourself, someone's reviewing it for you, and then again, you have to gauge whether or not the person you're following, or the person that's reviewing it, you have to gauge whether or not you trust them, because they're the ones going over it, and everyone has different opinions on certain things, the way they look at something, the person, and I'm not saying this about MASS, because they're some of the smartest people that I follow, period, but what if, your average Joe does his own study review, and you're following him? You can't just follow him and say, like, oh, well, this guy said this, and how that study was the best study ever. And then, what if a smarter guy comes out, or a guy who analyzed it a little better said, well, this study had this flaw, this flaw, this flaw, so it's not really the best study out. Or this study contradicted that study's findings, so it's we're in the neutral right now. We really don't know. So you kind of have to trust them at that point. But it would help if you did like reading studies, because at some point you're going to have to, it would help if you can analyze them yourself to a certain extent. You can't just trust everyone else to do the work for you. You have to understand certain aspects of studies so that you can get where those studies fell short, and how you can apply it to your clients, and whether or not it's safe or wise to apply those things to your clients. Maybe there's not enough research out about that topic right then. Like, for example, occlusion training. That's a good topic right now. It's kind of like a mixed bag, I'd say. There has been some studies that showed that in limbs with injured joints, or some small injuries, that occlusion training can help increase the amount of hypertrophy that you do. And if you don't know what occlusion training is, it's basically wrapping like putting a wrap or a band around, I don't know if it's the end. I think it's the end of your joint. The end of your joint. Like, so for example, if you put like a band around your bicep, the bottom of your bicep, to kind of occlude the blood flow a little bit, that's going to impede the blood flow leaving the muscle a little bit, which is going to cause like metabolite buildup, which supposedly is supposed to cause a more hypertrophic response. It's supposed to increase the amount of gains you make. But some studies show that occlusion training doesn't work. Some studies show that it does work. So it's neither here nor there. So that's not something that I would immediately jump on the bandwagon with. It's not something that I would say, oh, so again, if you don't really know how to read studies and you have no idea, and you've read one person, you've heard one person say something about occlusion training, and you're like, oh my God, occlusion training, there's this new technique available, and then you immediately try them with your clients, but you don't think about it, and you don't read the studies yourself, and and you don't you just don't think about the topic a little bit, like enough as much as you should. Like, another thing you got to think about with something like that is whether or not your client has high blood pressure, because occlusion training is probably not best for someone with high blood pressure. You're now compressing the blood vessels more, which is going to raise blood pressure. So again, that might not be the smartest thing. So again, it would help if you like reading studies. If you don't like reading studies, then maybe you could just do them here and there just to maintain that, and mix it in with like research reviews. Someone else reads the study, so you can kind of get past that. All right, the next thing that, again, this is kind of like the first one, and I'm putting emphasis on this for a specific reason, is that you really, 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 really need to like really enjoy working out. Not kind of like, not, oh, it makes me feel good. Like, you really need to enjoy working out, because you're gonna you should be doing it pretty often anyways, because you have to lead by example. There's stuff that you learn with experience that you can't get from a book. Now, there's a lot of shit you can get from books, but and a lot of stuff you can get from science. Nothing's gonna ever replace science, but there's a certain thing you have to say for experience. Like, for example, when I do shoulder shrugs, if I do any weighted stuff where I'm with my hands in a neutral position, not supinated, not pronated, where the palms are facing each other and my arms at my sides, like with like a dumbbell shrug. If I do anything like that, for me, it feels like, just with that stuff, not with deadlifts where my hands are in front of me, not with squats where you have a weighted bar on your back. So it's not the weight, but it's whenever I have weighted stuff in my hands and my hands are at the sides of my body, it feels like I can't breathe that well. Not like, oh, I'm passing out or dying. It almost feels like I'm like combining cardio and lifting at the same time. When I'm done, like, for example, when I do trap bar deadlifts. Trap bar deadlifts, because your hands are at your sides, for some reason, it's like I could do a lot of reps of them, but it just feels like I'm like more exhausted at the end of those. I don't know why. I know it's completely anecdotal, but I'm not making this shit up. Like, I didn't just come up with that. It just feels like that. So that's maybe something that I can tell a client. Like, these may feel a little bit more fatiguing. You may feel out of breath, but we'll wait a little bit longer for a rest period, or you're not doing it wrong. It's just a little bit harder. I don't know why. Some things just, we don't know exactly, but it just feels like stuff like that pulls down my rib cage. It feels like it's dragging me down more than a deadlift too. Like, I'll do regular conventional deadlifts more than I do for my trap bar deadlifts, and it feels like, it just feels hard. The trap bar deadlifts still feel harder, like cardiovascularly. So like they feel more taxing on my cardiovascular system. It just feels like I just did a sprint when I didn't. So that's something that you get from experience, which is why you really need to enjoy working out, because you need to be doing it a lot, and you're going to constantly be around other people working out. You need to just enjoy doing it. Like me, I enjoy lifting. I enjoy doing squats. I enjoy doing bench press. I look forward to the gym. It is a highlight of my day. Like, I rarely ever dread the gym. And as a personal trainer, there are going to be times where you sleep and think, oh man, I don't want to work out today. But if you're feeling like that even a chunk of the time, then maybe you need to rethink this career, because that's what you're going to be doing. I work out 5 times a week. I would say 1 out of every 15 to 20 workouts, I really don't want to do it. I'm just like, I don't feel like it today. And it's not even the workout. It's usually something else that's bothering me that makes the workout just another hassle. And so yeah, but other than that, you just really, I'm not even talking about a little bit. Even if you're like, oh yeah, I kind of like working out. No, you have to like really enjoy it. And if you don't, maybe you just want to do personal training as a side thing. But again, I wouldn't recommend it if you don't really enjoy working out. The next topic is that if you enjoy teaching. So if you enjoy teaching, and this isn't the same as helping people, because helping people, like for example, you can help people by feeding the poor, or giving food to the poor, or you can help people, someone who's struggling, by taking on one of their bills for a month. You can help people by just washing their car, doing them a favor, but that's not the same as teaching. And I guess I'll combine this one and the next one. The next one I said, oh yeah, I'll combine them because they're kind of the same, but they're still different. Is if you don't mind working with people's bad habits, because that kind of goes hand in hand with teaching. Because you have to understand, and this is what I learned with personal training, is that you're going to come across clients and you're going to come across people that when they're put in uncomfortable situations, they tend to do things that they wouldn't do when they're not in an uncomfortable situation. And I've seen this a lot, me being in the military. But like, for example, when I teach people deadlifts, most of the time they can't feel it the first time, and I tell them it's okay, it's fine. Most of the time they say they can't feel it in their hamstrings and their glutes. They can't. And even when I start off real light with just the bar, or even a lighter bar, not even the 45-pound bar, I start off with 15-pound dumbbell, something real light. And these are healthy individuals, no major injury history, good form, not doing nothing crazy. They say they don't feel it in their glutes or their hamstrings, and it may take them a few workouts, but sometimes they get frustrated, or they'll get annoyed, or they'll even get kind of snappy. They'll be like, oh, I don't feel it. They'll just get rude kind of, or maybe they're having a bad day, and then they come in and the last thing they want to be doing is having to strain and focus on form and tense muscles, when all they want to do is just throw shit and I'm just being straight up. They just want to whine sometimes. You have to remember is that I'm a person. I get mad too. I have bad days, and so are your clients. So I guess this ties into, you have to enjoy teaching, is because that's part of teaching, is that when you're teaching something, you enjoy working out probably more than almost all your clients most of the time, unless you're training like high level athletes. But that's what I'm saying. If you're a personal trainer, you probably enjoy working out a ton, and your clients are working out with you because, one, for lots of reasons, they don't know how to work out the best, and they don't know, one, they don't know how to work out the best, too, and sometimes it's a motivation thing. They want a personal trainer to make them a good program, but they also need them to motivate them and get them in the gym. So they're probably not wanting to be there as much as you are. So combine that, the fact that they might not want to be there all the time nearly as much as you. Combine that with the fact is, what if they're just having a bad day? And what if just mixed in with their personality? What if their personality is someone who gets snappy? So you have to enjoy working with people's bad habits. It's gonna show at some points, because you are teaching them. You're being you're not just helping them by giving them stuff. You're teaching them techniques. You're teaching them skills. I always say, think of strength as a skill. Just be ready to be patient. I guess I didn't write patience down because that's kind of like an overlying theme of a lot of these too. But it's just be patient. Get ready to have to be patient with people getting annoyed and not being frustrated with not being good. Some people get annoyed simply with the fact is they're not getting things as easily as they like to. Maybe this happened to you, maybe this happened to someone else. Have you ever had anything where you just could not get down and it was frustrating? You didn't understand it and you wanted to pretty badly, and it was making you a little bit upset. And some people are like that, So yeah, just make sure that to some aspect you enjoy teaching, because that's what you're going to be doing. You're teaching these people proper technique. You're teaching, you can't just tell them, take this rest period, it's the best. This rest period's the best for what you're doing. A lot of people want to know why, and you're going to have to explain that to them kind of in layman's terms. Obviously not as in-depth as you may know, because you're not trying to give them an hour-long class in the middle of their workout. But again, that's to some level you have to. If you do not like teaching, if you don't like explaining stuff to people ever, if you don't like, if you're one of the people like, if these people can't get it, then it's not my problem. They need to learn it themselves. If you're anything like that, then this career is probably not for you. And if it is something, let's just say you like all these things. Let's just say you enjoy helping people. You enjoy writing programs. You enjoy working out a ton. You enjoy the science of exercise, but you don't like teaching people, then maybe you probably could still be a trainer. But what I would recommend is you're not going to be a trainer. Like, maybe you could be an online trainer. You could be an online personal trainer. That's pretty big. So that's one of those ones that you could probably work around. As online trainer, you might have to explain a little bit over over text or a video chat, but maybe you can do online training, but only do it to people who have like an adequate level of gym experience. Maybe don't, be the mature person. It's not mean of you, but be the mature person and say, if you're completely new, I'm sorry, I don't work with people that are completely new. There are other good trainers who do that, so hopefully you can find someone fit for you, you know, and then to help you kind of get past the training wheel phases of learning the gym stuff. But maybe you could just be a trainer that works with someone who's at least intermediate. Again, it's your career choice. You could definitely do this. So that's one of those ones you could kind of work around, but it would be easier for you if you did enjoy teaching to some extent and you don't mind working. You're patient with people's bad habits, because again, that's just what comes at teaching. People are going to get frustrated and their bad habits are going to show. All right, this next one applies to every part of personal training. If there's no part of personal training where you can get around this part, whether you're online training in person, it doesn't matter. If you only write training programs, because it's gonna it's gonna reflect on your work regardless, and you as a person, it's gonna get to you at some point. You're gonna come across this path of conflict, and you're gonna think, okay, well, what do I do here? But the next one is, to be a personal trainer in the fitness industry at all, you have to not mind being in a somewhat shallow and oversaturated industry. And this is something to not be overlooked, because I've seen this a ton being in the fitness industry since I started. Is that, let's just say you take your craft seriously, like I do. You know, you take your craft seriously, and you're a personal trainer. Because personally, I read almost every single day something about fitness related, whether it be like right now I'm reading a biomechanics book. I think it's interesting as hell. Call me nerdy, I don't care. I love reading stuff like that. But you're gonna let's just say you take your craft seriously. You're gonna come across some people who are not personal trainers. Their job is not a personal trainer, not at all. They do something completely different. They're a mechanic, but they like to work out. And all of a sudden, they think that they know about training people. I don't know. This fucking drives me insane. It drives me nuts. I want to bang my head against the wall. And again, I'm not really that mad, but I mean, it's annoying as shit, because it's like the only industry, the only career field where if someone just does a little bit of it, that they start to think that they know everything. They read a magazine article, they seen a video of someone saying this, and then suddenly they know what the hell they're talking about. So it is a very oversaturated industry. On top of so many people who want to be personal trainers, not like want to be, but like they want to be personal trainers. And on top of the fact that people who are personal trainers, and on top of the fact that there are people who are in school, or on top of the fact that people who, let's just say, they're not even personal trainers, they're like bodybuilders. Again, that's a whole different thing. Like, being a bodybuilder is not being a trainer. Just because you bodybuild doesn't mean you can train people. It doesn't mean that, fuck no, that does not mean that you can train people. Most bodybuilders, even at the elite levels, have trainers. Most powerlifters at the elite level have trainers. So you're telling me if someone like as badass and strong as Larry Wheels, he has a trainer, you're telling me that because you work out a little bit or you watched a video that you think that you know everything? No, hell no. And it disrespects everyone who does put in the work, like me and other people who put in work, who read every single day about fitness, who, you know, it's like, I feel like I know shit. The more you feel like, it's like the more I knew, the more I started to see all these different disciplines. I feel like I don't know much. You know, biomechanic, you can get a PhD in biomechanics itself. I'm not 99% sure. You can get a PhD in biomechanics. And you're telling me that including on top of that, on top of cardiovascular physiology, on top of muscle physiology, on top of bioenergetics, you know, on top of just like periodization when it comes to strength training and hypertrophy, all these things, I'm going to have to, you know, like intensity, frequency, volume, knowing exercise selection, rest periods, like workout tempo, like there's so many things that I can touch into that, like, I have to know some X level of all of these. And almost all of these disciplines go into PhDs themselves. I can't get 10 PhDs. So again, I feel like I don't know much. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, you need to be prepared, or you need to not mind being in a very shallow industry where you have people on YouTube who will, you know, put a couple needles in their ass, take some steroids, and then boom, everyone thinks that they know more than you do when you put in the hard work and you read every day. I know this kind of sounds like a little bit of a rant, but you have to be ready to deal with that shit. You could cite everything you say, multiple pieces of scientific literature cited, thoroughly checked out by you. You didn't just read the abstract, you looked through them well. You're backing up your claims really well, but simply, and let's just even assume that you may not have the best genetics for lifting or something. Then you have this guy who all he does is take steroids and put, needles in him every single day. And what do you know? He suddenly knows more than you do. That's what I'm saying. So you need to be ready and be ready to be in an industry where everybody wants to be a part of it. And a lot of people judge you by the way that you look. And I think that does hold a small smidge of credibility. Like a crumb. I'm talking about like the very tiniest. Like, for example, well, it's even then, I don't even know if I could say that, because like anyone who let's just say you don't follow strength sports and you see someone like Eddie Hall, and I'm not even trying to be mean to Eddie Hall, I'm not at all. Eddie Hall, I mean, world's strongest man. I think he won the last one. It was the last one or the one before that, but I think it was the last one. Strongest man in the world, ridiculous athlete, highly respectable, love his work. But an average person who just seen him, had no idea who he was, might think that he's just an overweight guy. And again, I'm not saying that's all he is. That I'm not trying to mean this by no disrespect. I have nothing against Eddie Hall. He's a real cool guy. But they don't know that he's the world's strongest man, but they see him, they think he's just a big guy that's maybe overweight. So you can't judge someone by the way that they look. You never know. And even then, what if Eddie Hall stopped right now and he didn't lift weights at all anymore? And he did nothing for 5 years, literally just becoming couch potato, and he got weak as shit. Hypothetically, let's just say that he did nothing, took nothing, and became weak as shit. What if he tried to give advice to someone about something, and someone says, well, you're weak as hell, you can't give me advice? But does that even matter at that point? Like, that's what I'm saying. So you can't, based on how someone looks or what they can do, that doesn't necessarily dictate whether they're right or wrong. So just be ready to be in an industry that's sometimes full of shit, and it's going to piss you off sometimes. All right, the next one, I guess, for being a personal trainer is, it would be helpful if you didn't mind having weird schedules. This is one career where I've almost never seen anyone have like a 9 to 5, unless you own a gym or something. If you own a gym, then yeah, I guess you could have like a 9 to 5 kind of, but it's never going to be that way. It is never going to be that way. Your hours are all over the place. Like, even with me, like, like if you make workout programs, you're going to have to update them. And even making them at the beginning is going to take forever if your workout programs are good. Clients are going to call in or reschedule or have different weird hours. Like, the only personal trainers that I know had weird schedules, man. They worked from like 6 in the morning to like 11. Then they didn't do anything from like 11 to 3, or 11 to 4, then from like 4 to 8. So they had a huge gap in the middle, and it was just weird days. Like, I rarely come across personal trainers that have a consistent work schedule, like from 11 to this, And if they do, it's not the same stuff. It's usually one thing here, one thing here, one thing here. So just be prepared to have a weird work schedule, weird hours. And if you're okay with that, then cool. But if you're one of those people that says, no, I need a consistent schedule. I need to be able to do the same thing at the same time. I like waking up at this time, stop working at this time, and then have my own me time. This is definitely not for you. I mean, I guess you could find some aspect of it, like self-training programs online. But again, like, I don't know how you're going to work with people, because you're working with other people. You're kind of like, of course, they need to respect your time, but in a weird way, you're kind of at the whim of them. Like, what if everyone told you they can't work with you at 4 p.m. in the afternoon when that's when you want to fill in a gap with the client, but all your clients are saying no, or everyone you meet says, yeah, I'll hire you, but I can't do training then. I work then, because everyone else has jobs too. You're working around their jobs. Your job is to work out with them. When do people work out? They don't work out during their shift. They work out. Some people work out on their lunch, but it's either before work, lunch, or after work. So again, your hour is going to be weird as hell, and I hope you're okay with that. I mean, I am. I wake up at like 11:30, and I don't go to bed till like 4 a.m. So my schedule is weird as shit. All right, and then the last one, I guess, is this is the last one I'm going to go over. And so far, again, all of these, if you've meet all this criteria or most of these criteria, then you're doing pretty good. And it sounds like this personal training is for you. If you like helping people, if you love working out, if you don't mind being patient with people with bad habits, if you don't mind being in a sometimes shallow, there are a lot of good people who aren't shallow, don't get me wrong, but don't mind being an oversaturated industry. If you don't mind, reading studies or looking at studies, then boom, it sounds like this career is for you. The last one, though, is you don't mind having to pay your dues. And this kind of ties into this being an oversaturated industry. And by pay your dues is, I mean, like, for example, there are some careers that aren't fully fleshed out yet. to the point where you don't have to get super far in them for people to recognize you as that guy. Like, for example, like, how many people, like, do you know that, like, let me just, like, for example, how many people do you know that make, I'll even tie it I need to think of an example. Well, regardless of the example, there are industries that when someone meets a certain criteria, let's say someone's they teach a language. That's a perfect one. Let's just say they teach a language. There's not many people that I walk across that teach a language. If someone tells me that they teach people how to speak Spanish, I'd say, oh, that's cool. You know, I don't really like contest that. And when people say that, everybody, like, especially in a town, you'll probably know that person as a person who teaches people how to speak a language. Like, it's not really, you don't really contest that. And it's not really something that you have to sit there and kind of dig your feet in and work to get credited for. You know, you really don't, or to get recognized. Like, to me, that I don't come across that many people who say that. So then I instantly know is that person as a person who teaches people how to speak Spanish. So, but it's not the same with personal training. Is that when you say you're a personal trainer online or offline, there are so many fucking people who say that they're a personal trainer. So many who are claimed to be in this industry or affiliated in some way. They're some type of athlete, or they train this or train that or do this or do that. Even when most of them aren't, there are a lot of good trainers out there, a lot of them. A lot of good coaches out there, tons of them. Powerlifting coaches, strength coaches, strongman coaches, you know, coaches for sports teams. There's tons of good ones. But there are a lot of ones who are bullshit and claim this or that they are when they're not. So you have to be willing to pay your dues. You have to be willing to put in a lot of time to kind of differentiate yourself from the pack. You can't just jump in here and then work for a month or do something for a month and expect, boom, instantly people to just think that you're the guy who knows more than these other trainers, because everybody wants to do it. Think about it. When an industry is oversaturated, you have to be doing something different, but you also just, sometimes you could be doing something different and amazing, but it still will just take time. You have to be patient with it. So you just have to don't mind paying your dues. If you're looking to jump into an industry and immediately get recognized, because it's, again, in some industries where it's not fully fleshed out, or it's not a very, like, again, with the teaching Spanish thing, you know, like if someone said, oh, I teach people how to speak Spanish, I don't know that many people who teach people how to speak Spanish. And I'm pretty sure there are lots of people who want to learn. So I don't know that many people. Like, I know I meet people all the time who say that they're affiliated with the fitness industry. I've met PE teachers who say they train people. I've met this or that, you know, so it's like, you have to be willing to put in so much work to just get a basic level of recognition. So again, I don't mind it. Just know it's very, 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 I guess the simplest way to put it, it's a very, 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 very grindy career. Very grindy. You got to be grinding all the time. And I know people always try to throw that corny statement around, like, oh, I'm on my grind, you know, it's very corny, but I'm just saying this, like, I'm not saying this in a negative way. It could be negative though, but it's very grindy. Like, I play video games. If you play video games, maybe you can relate. Have you ever played a video game where it's just so grindy to the point where it can get frustrating, but it's worth it? That's what personal training is like. It's just, you gotta work just to get your basic level of recognition. When in other careers, to get a basic level of recognition, you don't have to put in that much time or that much effort. Not saying other careers are bad. That's not what I'm saying. I don't even necessarily know if this is a good thing. It's probably not, because again, this industry is oversaturated with a bunch of fucking people who, a lot of them don't know what they're talking about and they don't even read fitness shit, and they think that they're a trainer. But all right, that's it. Again, I guess just to summarize, just, you know, if you enjoy helping people, that's a plus. If you enjoy reading study reviews, that's a plus. If you, obviously, you should really, really, really enjoy working out. You enjoy teaching people, and when enjoy teaching people, you're going to have to instruct them, tell them to do this or that, help correct their form. You know, you basically being a teacher, you're a fitness teacher. Think of it just like that. It's self-explanatory. You don't mind working with people's bad habits, being late, getting annoyed, maybe snapping at you, getting irritated, frustrated, not trying as hard, goofing around too much, talking too much, stuff like that. You got to realize it's going to happen. You don't mind being in a shallow and oversaturated industry, because it is, and it's going to continue to grow, especially with, you know, like YouTube and stuff. You don't mind having weird schedules because you're not going to have a consistent schedule. And then the last one is you don't mind having to pay your dues. So if those things don't bother you and you were already thinking about being a personal trainer, then boom, I think this is a career for you. If you got a few red flags there, I'd probably sit and think long and hard about whether this career is for you, or like I said, modify it a little bit. If you enjoy teaching but you don't like working with people's bad habits like in person too much, maybe you could be an online coach. What if you don't like working with people that much at all, but you like the science of exercise? Maybe you can just sell workout programs. You could build your workout programs in peace and sell them to people and tell them, you have to have a basic level of fitness, and then boom, maybe make videos and answer some comments online. But other than that, that's your kind of limit with reaction, your limit with talking to people and stuff like that. So again, you can work with it on that. But there's only so much you can kind of maneuver these things to the point where you, at the end of the day, you just don't like fitness. You don't like being a personal trainer. Remember, there's a difference between someone who wants to be a personal trainer and someone who just likes working out. What if you go over these and you waved a few red flags popped up, and you're just like, wow, I don't want to be in an industry where everybody thinks they know more than the next person when they never read or anything. If that's one of your red flags, if one of your red flags is you don't like having weird schedules, and if you had another red flag where you don't really like reading studies too often, but you're like, I really, really, really like working out, that's not enough. A lot of people like working out, but being a personal trainer is more than just really working out. And while I think really, 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 really enjoying to work out is like a prerequisite of being a trainer, that's like a basis. That's a very basic thing that you need. If that's your only thing, I don't think you should be a personal trainer, because it's more than that. It's a lot more than just liking working out. If you guys have any questions, comments, you can feel free to comment on my website. Again, you can comment on there. I connected it to Discus. Just click on the this episode, and then it should go to another page, and boom, you can comment right there. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, please share it with a friend. If you have a question, comment down below. Wherever you're watching, just comment. I also upload these to SoundCloud. If you guys have any ideas or topics for other videos that you want me to cover, please just let me know and I will do that. But until then, I'll see you guys next time.